to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning Fan Show. Well, thank you all for tuning in. It's been a minute, I gotta say. Last episode we did was Thursday, which normally isn't out of the ordinary, but we have dialed it back to one episode a week, not including specials that we do for different divisions, which is kind of going to be the approach. We're testing the waters to see how this works, because Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday was working out great, but for those of you that... I feel like there is a bit of a difference between podcasters and people that listen to the radio. Now, obviously, I am not on an AM/FM dial as much as I wish that I were. So, for those of you driving to and from work that would love to be able to tune into me, I mean, you still can. There's a lot of cars with the technology that allows you to do that. But I get it. 3 episodes a week might be a bit much to try to catch up on, along with everything else that you have going on, because you have to, did you subscribe? Did you download? Hopefully you do both. So I'm trying to make things easier for you, the good people of Fan Nation. And by doing that, we are going to have 1 episode a week. It's going to be every Wednesday, as this one is. Wednesday is our favorite day of the week, hump day. And then we are going to have... possibly that in the same week, 1 or more special episodes, one of which will be doing the College Gridiron Showcase specials that we have agreed to per our contract with them as media partners, because we are officially in the countdown to the 2019 College Gridiron Showcase. But we've got some concerts coming up, so there might be some music division specials. Bobby Brown of All-Star Bass Fishing, I know he wants to catch up a little bit on kind of recap his 2018 and what they have to come in 2019, and that'll be, of course, under the Outdoors division logo. We've got plenty of pop culture stuff in the works. Thank you to Dees Casillas and the Social Hour Pod for having me on their version of The Tonight Show at the Spokane Comedy Club this last Sunday night. That was a blast. And then who knows what the rest holds. I mean, BattleBot's obviously a little quiet right now, but there could still be things that happen that fall under the mechanics, robotics division. And then music. Well, I already mentioned music. Wrestling, though. Wrestling's a year-round 24/7 thing, and there's going to be plenty to talk about, especially with Survivor Series coming up in just a couple of weeks. So with that, once a week, be on the lookout for specials, though, because I'm sure that those of you that are interested in those particular categories, divisions, or specials are going to download and tune in. But it's not going to interrupt our regularly scheduled programming. But, of course, with Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays coming up, there might not even be new episodes in December, with the exception of the specials, because we might throw together about, a handful of best of. It's been a while since we've done some of those, right? Best of the Fan Show 2018, which was a fantastic year. Had Steve Ranazisi, Brad Williams back on the show, making their second appearance, and we did a lot in 2018. So we'll see if the closer that we get to the holiday home stretch, depending on how chaotic things get, just what we'll do with the Fan Show. But we're here for you all the time for those of you that just need to break up the mundane. I mean, it is the day after Election Day, and we are all collectively breathing a big which I'm actually going to throw into my headlines now that I think about it. So let's go ahead. Let's get to it. We got a special episode for you today. It is episode 374. My instructor for the class that I'm currently taking in my Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at Full Sail University, Rishi Barren, who is a sportscaster himself. The class is broadcast writing, and it has been such an eye-opener. He joins me on the show. He's going to be up here in a little bit, but of course we have our due diligence to do, so let's get through today's headlines, and then we'll talk a little bit of sportscasting with Rishi. How about it? Here we go! All right, headlines, of course, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, who just finished up my table runner, my tablecloth. It looks so beautiful, amazing. Cannot wait to sport that at the events. A lot of the stuff that he's doing for me now is to get me ready for not only CGS, but CGS and beyond. I'm going to be set up down in Fort Worth, Texas for a week with a table, a backdrop. We're going to be doing sideline interviews. There's going to be so much content from this week, young, hopeful athletes, and I am so excited. And so Ethan and Dynamite Enterprises have been more than happy to oblige by getting me the stuff that I will need to put my best foot forward and look the very best that the F.A.N show can look. So I encourage you, like I do every week here on the show, every time we do the headlines, hit up Ethan, go to dynamiteenterprises.com or just shoot him an email, ethan@dynamiteenterprises.com, and say, hey, F.A.N show talks so highly about you. We hear great things. You guys have a great working relationship. We'd like to see what we could do possibly moving forward and get some merchandise or some equipment or some custom things for ourselves. And he's going to be like, you know what? That's awesome. We love being having a relationship with them, a beautiful working business relationship. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut you a deal. We're going to work this out with you. And he's going to make sure that it is picture perfect. So Ethan@dynamiteenterprises.com. Customize your world. And as I mentioned, yesterday was election day. And I'm very happy that it is over. I made a point to physically go in and vote like they used to back in the old days. I've never been a fan of mailing in my ballot. I like kind of that experience of going in and voting, and I've only done that, I think, one other time, but I had missed it, so I went in to actually vote, went through, took my time, voted for my candidates. I wore Niners stuff, and the story just starts there. I hop in my car, I record this little video about me discussing, that election day doesn't have to just be that one day that we hope for change. You can do change in your everyday lives. Basically, my message is that if I love to do what I do because I get to do so many different things where I see humanity come together and be at their absolute best. Comic-Cons, BattleBots, robot competitions, sporting events, music festivals. It really doesn't matter because nobody is checking race, creed, or religion or who you voted for at the door. You bought your ticket, you go in, and you have all these thousands of people, or hundreds, or even not, around you of people from different backgrounds and upbringings and shortcomings. And it's just like, if we can do that in so many different aspects of our life, why can't we do that in our daily life as a whole? So that's what I encourage people to do. I posted the video. It's gotten good responses so far, but I actually got called out, one, for wearing Nike to go vote by an internet troll who has now been banned from the page. And I felt bad for this individual to be so petty on a day that it's like, we're going out there to do what we believe in. And then I also got called out for wearing red, which, look, I don't align myself left or right. I suppose I would find myself more on the right than the left as far as things that I believe in and whatnot. But it's a Niners jacket. Like, their color is red. Like, what would you say to somebody that walked in there wearing Jacksonville Jaguars colors? Like, people will find the weirdest things to pick out, and that's what I hate the most about the world. So I'm very glad that for right now, this round of elections is done. We focus on now the big one coming up in 2 more years. But my God, the campaign ads are just relentless. And who's going to go and clean up all the campaign signs? I hope that the people that are on those signs are responsible for the cleanup, because they're such an eyesore. They really are. They're like the same billboard over and over and over. But anyway, so Election Day is over. I'm very happy. Collective sigh of relief. And now let's get into the sports topics. That's what you guys want to hear. The Saints, breaking news as of today. That's right, the Big Easy, no law. New Orleans signs Dez Bryant. And Dez Bryant's deal is a 1-year deal, and more specifically, the remainder of this year. So the 2018 NFL season is how long he will play for the Saints. Bryant went on record saying basically along the lines of he wanted a chance to prove himself and then wanted to then become a free agent again. Now, I'm not sure that Dez is the kind of guy that needed to prove himself again, because he was being incredibly picky about who he wanted to sign with, because he went and he worked out with the Browns. I believe even like the Giants, the Eagles were looking at him, the Patriots at one point, but he had suitors, just not his suitor, and the Saints weren't even in the mix. But now the Saints very much are. They called him in for a workout, I think yesterday, and signed him to that deal today. I have searched high and low and cannot find a number for this deal, but I can't imagine it's very much. But I think Dez was more excited at the opportunity than anything else. This adds even more to the Saints' offense. They're going to be very dangerous moving forward. In fact, they're already dangerous even without Dez Bryant, as there are no longer any undefeated teams remaining in the NFL. That's right. And then there were none. Saints take down the Rams. And the Rams on the road in the Superdome, I get it. It's tough sledding there. But the Saints, everybody counted them out like, what, week 2? They've only lost one time this season. And now they're the Rams' only loss. This game was amazing. It looked like it was all Saints at the beginning, but then the Rams mounted a comeback. They got some momentum swinging their way. The Saints will get their first look at Dez Bryant in their lineup against the Bengals this Sunday in Cincinnati, where the Rams will return home to host rival the Seattle Seahawks. And that, of course, is a big one because anything can happen in a rivalry game. So the Rams are definitely going to be looking to bounce back. They're probably going to play pretty pissed off, which I'm all for it. But Dez Bryant cannot, there's no way he's number 1 on that wide receiver chart. Michael Thomas has been incredible, and that's a word that I don't even think fits how well he has played for New Orleans. So he's probably option 2, but that offense almost didn't need any more weapons, but now Breeze has another one to add to it. We'll see how well Dez does down in the Big Easy, and we wish him all the best of luck. The Eagles get Darren Sproles back, and this is just in time for Sunday night versus the Cowboys. How exciting is that? Sproles has been out since week 1 with an ailing hamstring injury. Bruce Irvin lands in Atlanta on a 1-year deal, and he brings the remainder of his $3.8 million contract that he had previously with the Raiders. Their next matchup is against the Cleveland Browns. Sam Darnold out for Sunday. He has a foot injury that apparently Todd Bowles says he didn't know about, so either he was completely oblivious to it or Darnold lied about it, which is not a good look either way. McCown to start this Sunday against Buffalo. Mullins mania is running wild, at least for another week. San Francisco's new young quarterback, who nobody knew who the heck he was, going into Thursday night against Oakland Raiders in the last ever Battle of the Bay, would go 16 of 22, 232 yards, and 3 touchdown passes. I mean, this kid is a product of the Southern Miss, the same college that, you may know him, Brett Favre went to. And where's the number 4? Just like Mr. Favre, Brett Favre, in fact, called the youngster after his amazing NFL debut. They don't get much better than that, but he will have a chance to carry that momentum against the reeling Giants, who are always a thorn in the 49ers side. This, again, will be at home in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. Monday Night Football. It is one of the primetime games that the 49ers already had slated. I believe they were slated for 5. They have played 3, and 1 was flex, so this will be their final. Yeah, I believe this is their final primetime game. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. So, Mullins Mania, as they call it. We've seen this before, but I'm going to enjoy it. This is going to be the longest week that we've gone without losing for a while. I'm certainly going to milk it for all it's worth. But, man, Nick Mullins, how about that? To just get the start and then just tear it up. He threw to 8 different receivers that game. That was incredible. My first hand at play-by-play commentary I decided to do while I was out at House of Cards, and thank you to the North Idaho faithful for having me. We were doing a special, and me and Josh, I said, you know what, we're going to call this first drive for the 49ers. It's a frickin' touchdown drive to Pierre Garçon. So my first ever NFL play-by-play commentary is a touchdown drive for the San Francisco 49ers. So yeah, I'm going to give a hand to myself on that because I feel good about it. In other news from around the world, not just sports, Bohemian Rhapsody came out, the movie, the biopic of the life of Freddie Mercury and the band Queen came out. My wife and I went and saw it at the what would be midnight showing Thursday night before it was released Friday. We were like the only ones in that theater. I was a bit surprised and taken back by that, but we watched it on IMAX because we believed that that's how we needed to see that movie. and the sound was great. I thought it was an incredible movie, an experience, a story, just everything. Now it did feel rushed at times, but you'd need almost a trilogy to tell this entire story. The critics are not as hyped about it as we are. Basically, the worst review that I said is that they glossed over too much of Freddie Mercury's personal life, which that's not what the movie was about if you actually watched the movie. Yes, he was a focal point of it, but to say basically that the movie wasn't gay enough, I don't agree with that whatsoever, because it wasn't a secret, and but it's also not something that he necessarily wanted a bunch of pity, attention, what have you. He was a performer, and he went out and he performed to his best, and he didn't like any of the outside noise. So I think this movie did him a great justice, and I was very happy to go and see it. We might see it again. We loved it. It was fantastic. Happy birthday to Mike Herrera. It was his birthday yesterday. He, of course, is a Fan Show alumni and an official member of Fan Nation. He's Fan Show official. Sent him a shirt as a thank you. He's been on the show a couple of times to talk music and football. What better combo is there? Washington resident, Washington native. He lives over in Bremerton, frontman of MXPX. So happy birthday, Mike Herrera. BattleBots released a 2019 calendar, which is good because I didn't know what I was going to do for my 2019 calendar, and we are in November, so that is something that needs to be thought about, folks, okay? It's not always on your phone. You can have like an actual calendar to look at in your room, studio, or office each and every day. So bot fans, go and get that. Crown Jewel was an epic failure, and I think we all saw that coming. I'm not really going to go much more into that, but WWE should breathe a huge sigh of relief that they're moving on to Survivor Series, which is one of their big 4 pay-per-views each year, because they need to put Crown Jewel behind them as quickly as possible. Triple H, though, during his match, him and Shawn Michaels as DX versus The Undertaker and Kane of Brothers of Destruction, tore his pectoral muscle, the same injury that John Cena sustained, and he will have surgery. I believe it was this morning, or yesterday morning he had surgery. So we wish him well and a speedy recovery. Chris Kattan is part of the 2019 Lilac City Comic-Con happening June 1st. It was announced yesterday during Nathan O'Brien and Lilac City's Talent Tuesday, so that'll be a lot of fun. The SNL and Night at the Roxbury star and standout will be making his trip up to the Pacific Northwest for both days, Saturday and Sunday. I'm very excited about that also. And I think that about does it, except for the last piece here. We are officially 58 days away from the College Gridiron Showcase 2019, and we will be doing weekly specials featuring Jose Jefferson, who you know, who you love, and that'll be this week, and then each week we'll have someone different on as the official countdown to CGS is underway, and we are so excited, so honored and privileged to be a part of that as an official partner media perspective or aspect of that. So we will see you in Fort Worth, Texas in January to kick off our 2019. Can it live up to what 2018 was? Well, we certainly hope so. And that's going to bring us to our point in the show where I'm going to welcome our guest, Rishi Barren. But before I do, since I started the podcast, I always get people asking me advice, whether it's about the podcast, football, fantasy football, whatever. And I don't claim to give out the best advice. In fact, I tell people, look, you can ask me all the fantasy advice you want. I give terrible fantasy advice. But a lot of people will simply ask me, especially when I have done my Fan versus Fan Show weekly pick'em, which I have stopped doing at this time, and that's fine. Who you picking? Who you picking? Well, I'll tell you, I pick with all the confidence in the world that I can. And if you're a betting man and you pick with confidence, then I suggest you go to my bookie. Remember, who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. And that's why I always tell people that my bookie is going to get you taken care of. I, of course, advocate for them. Kevin Guti, who's a comedian and a guest of the show, he's a betting man. He uses my bookie all the time. He uses my promo code. When I went over to North Idaho, they're like, yeah, we can bet here. We'll use it. And that's why I tell people to bet with my bookie, is because people know the name, they trust the name, and trust me, guys, they are the best bet this season. I mean, I would only recommend a service to my listeners that's been good to me, and they have been, just like Dynamite Enterprises and Undisputed Belts. So that's why I'm urging you to make your way to my bookie. You win, they pay. It's that simple. They have in-game live betting, over-unders, fantasy points scored, and most rewarding player perks, blah, 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 bonuses. You can't not take advantage of this if you're somebody who likes to gamble online. So enter promo code FAN, that's F-A-N, for football and nonsense to activate this offer. They're going to match your initial deposit, and you can claim up to $1,000 in free play. So if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is and place your bets, then MyBookie is the place to do that. Use promo code FAN, F-A-N, today. Match your initial deposit. With MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. And here we are. Enjoy my conversation with Rishi Barren, my instructor for broadcast writing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Joining me is my instructor from Full Sail University, the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. This is the first instructor that I've had on, and I'm going to go ahead and guess that, yes, this will be on the final. Give it up for Rishi Barren. How you doing, Rishi?
Richard, I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show.
I got to say, it is an honor and a privilege. Now, when I enrolled, and of course I had the show going before, I didn't know if this was like one of those professional things where it's like, it's unethical if I do, and I'm so appreciative that you guys have been willing to. You're the first one I've been able to coordinate to have on, but it's such an honor because obviously I'm learning so much, and I do love everything that's been going on with this course. But how did you get into this? Like, I have so many questions, but obviously this is the first ever. So how do you fall into the fold?
Okay, let me try to keep this as short as I can, Richard. So, long story short, I've been in broadcasting for the last 15 years. I've worked at a number of different television stations where I've been a reporter, anchor, play-by-play, you name it, right? But I've had this interest in teaching for a little while, and it all started when younger professionals started sending me what is known in the business as a demo reel, which is essentially a bunch of clips of their work, and you would use it to send out to try to get jobs. So they would send it to me and ask them how to improve it, and I would always have tips for them. And I found that I really enjoyed doing it, and I found that they started to get jobs when I would do it. So I thought, okay, maybe I have a feel for this, and at some point in my career, this is the direction that I would like to take. So I started doing a little bit of teaching in Tampa, Florida, where I was working right before I took this job, and I still do some broadcasting on the side, but I did decide to come here to the Dan Patrick School. Let me say that again, Dan Patrick School, so that I could be a full-time instructor here. And the reason, there are several of them, but number one, I love everything that this program is associated about. Dan decided he wanted to start this program for the reason that he felt that younger broadcasters he was encountering didn't have quite the education that he thought they should have coming into their first and sometimes even second and third jobs. There were certain skills they didn't have. So what he wanted to do was start a school where he could have people who had been in the business and had a lot of hands-on experience for them to give that same hands-on experience to the students. So that's what we're offering here, and I love the way the program is run. It's, as you've seen from the assignments, very interactive. We have a ton of people associated with this program who are highly esteemed in broadcasting. So that's kind of the short version of how I got here, Richard.
Well, I think it's been a great journey, and perfect segue, one for one on those right now, because I was actually going to mention Dan, who I've been a huge fan of, and the irony is that I didn't know about the Dan Patrick Show before I started my own podcast, but then there were people that brought to my attention that there were some similarities between the two, and I knew who Dan Patrick was. Like, it's not a matter of like who, it was that I completely forgot he had branched off and was doing his own thing. And of course, everybody, sports people usually fall asleep to ESPN, and he's on NBC Sports. So I finally was in my break room and they were replaying it, and it was like, wow, I totally get it. Like, this is what I want to be. This is direction I want to go. So I started listening and watching religiously. Dan just always seems to nail every topic that he discusses from a completely unbiased point that's very real. But I look at this school and this program and have to think that there was a meeting in the middle, because Full Sail is very well known for this line of business and industry, but Dan Patrick is one of the most well-known names in this specific industry. So I imagine that he maybe had some names on a list of handpicked people he wanted to be instructors, but Full Sail probably said, well, we also have like people that we believe would be fit. Like, what was your interview process, and do you know Dan personally? Like, did that factor in at all?
I did not know Dan until I started to begin this process of coming to this school. So since then, I've gotten to know him a little bit, not great yet, but because I've only been here for a short period of time. But he has been instrumental in everything, obviously, to do with a program with his name on it. He's very hands-on. He comes to campus and gives his insight as often as he can with his schedule that he does have. So Dan has done so much for this program, but the man who hired me was a guy named Gus Ramsey, who worked as a producer at ESPN for 20 plus years. And Dan kind of handpicked Gus when he decided he wanted to start this program as the perfect person to lead it, because Gus had done a lot of work with talent coaching and helping some of the big name ESPN personalities and also some personalities that work elsewhere to develop their skills even when they were already at the top of their game. And he also had a knack for working with younger people that would go to ESPN and start working there and helping them develop. So that's one reason that Dan wanted Gus involved. And honestly, the process with Gus was great. I got to speak with him and got a chance to come and meet him on campus. We shared a lot of the same principles of what we thought people should be learning. And next thing you know, I'm here, and our faculty continues to grow, and we have so many different instructors with diverse backgrounds, all that bring something different to the table, but all who share the same goal of where we want to bring this program. And let's be honest, our goal is to make this the biggest thing to happen in sports broadcasting education, and we think we can change the game and the way certain things are done here.
Which is another perfect segue, 2 for 2, to my next topic here, which is, I have always loved radio. I really have. Even I can recall a day back in, I think, my sophomore or junior year high school, they asked us what our dream job was, and I said radio DJ. And it wasn't a glamorous, high-paying job. It was, I loved the idea of a personality without a face, right? A character without all the extras. And so I absolutely loved the concept, and I kind of strayed away from it my first couple of years of college, and then obviously there's been a lot of time in the in-between. But then sportscasting, doing the podcast, my understanding of the way, that it worked is that you went to college, you went into communications, and then you graduated, you interned for 2 to 4 years, and then you just waited your turn. I mean, really, that's what it came down to. I know radio DJs that waited forever to finally get their on-air shot, and then you see a lot of news stations, they'll try somebody out here as the on-site reporter, maybe dabble a little bit in, personal stories or a human interest piece, and then finally they can anchor. But this seems to be specifically tailored to a specific type of broadcaster, that being the sportscaster. So what is it that makes this program so special in your mind, and is it changing the game?
Well, I think diversity is still a very important thing about it. We're going to teach everyone who comes here, including you, so many different skills and give you an avenue to choose when the time is right, which path you want to take, whether it is in radio, whether it's in television, whether it's something like podcasting or blogging, vlogging. I mean, there's so many different opportunities, play-by-play. We're getting into all of it and very much in depth. So part of what makes this program special is the fact that you're getting hands-on experience in all of those different things. You don't want to be a one-trick pony in this business, especially in this day and age where different places who employ ask you to do more and more things. That's just the world that we live in. So what makes it special is the hands-on experience you're getting, the tricks of the trade from all, not just some, but all instructors who have had a hand in the business at some point, and most who still do and still work in the business, and that diversity that you get in terms of training at every level, and a lot of people who care about you too. So it's very interactive. There's a lot of schools that have some of the principles that we use, but I don't think anybody does it quite the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, and I will agree with that wholeheartedly. As you mentioned earlier, it is incredibly interactive. I feel like there's just been an overwhelming amount of knowledge. I do wish that the classes were, 6 weeks minimum instead of 4, but it's just, it's coming at you so fast, and it makes sense because we live in a very fast-paced world. Now, it's funny that you mentioned being well-versed because one of my mentors, Joe Stacy, who's the voice of the Iowa Barnstormers arena football team, him and I were having a conversation a few weeks ago about how when he first started out as voice of the Barnstormers, that they didn't even really want him as play-by-play, despite the fact that he did have play-by-play experience. They more wanted him for marketing and sales, and he kind of had to maneuver and kind of coax his way into the play-by-play position. And it's crazy to look at it now and think, wow, he almost wasn't the guy, because you can't think or hear a different voice than the one that comes through that radio when he calls those games. So I completely agree, creating well-versed, multi-talented individuals that are up to date on media and how to present themselves. So this is the maiden voyage for this program for Full Sail. In your mind, obviously you love teaching, you love passing on knowledge to young aspiring individuals such as myself. What sold you on this program and this crazy idea that Dan Patrick had about a school for sportscasting?
I think just the idea that we can create it the way through the eyes that we've seen from inside the business, right? So it's not that you have to do this, you have to do that. It's ever evolving. Broadcasting is ever evolving. So is technology. And we're allowed to be as creative as we want to be with this and include as many different aspects as we can. And it's a very collaborative effort. And the way that I'm teaching the course today might change in the next year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, depending on what changes in the industry. So the way that everything is structured allows us, gives us some flexibility to do that. And it's kind of funny that even though I'm teaching full time, again, I still do some broadcasting on the side, but every day that I develop something new for this class, because we develop these classes from scratch, it feels like you're putting together a television show. So even though I'm teaching, it feels like I'm putting on a performance in terms of what is the best way that I can reach my viewers, who are the students, and teach them what they need to know. So it's kind of that same educational process that you would have if you watched a news program and you wanted to learn something from it. It's obviously not exactly like that, but the same idea that you can pass on knowledge through the way that we teach with this program. And as you've seen, a lot of opportunities to see things through those eyes and learn things through that format.
Now, the timing of this whole thing feels almost perfect because we have the Alliance of American Football that's starting up in February after the NFL season officially ends. And then we have the return of the XFL, which, in all honesty, dream job of mine, the combination of football and wrestling. It doesn't get much better than that. But I think an overlooked aspect of this program and what it offers is that connection now. Did you guys know going into or expect to have that phone start ringing when they are on the hunt for broadcasters and media guys? And are you guys excited about possibly creating that door for the future of sportscasters?
It's amazing how many people have already reached out to us about certain things. And we've had so many great guests come to see the students and meet the students and interact with them so far. I mean, everybody from, Bill Simmons to Kevin Nagandi to Jay Harris to Charles Davis from the NFL Network and NFL on Fox, David Steele, the play-by-play voice of the Orlando Magic, Sage Steele, Dan Patrick himself. I mean, we haven't even had this program going for a year yet. We're still in the first year of it, and they've our students have already had all those opportunities. And same thing, as you said, with opportunities for students to do things. The NFL offers chances for our students every weekend to be a runner for NFL games. So if they're an online student and they live in Washington like you do, they can take advantage of that opportunity, maybe do something for the Seahawks. If they live in Minneapolis, they can do it for the Vikings. If they're on campus, they can do it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Miami Dolphins. So we have so many different opportunities that have already opened up, and you're right, the phone has been ringing. So what we want is many chances for our students to separate themselves and get a chance to show what they can do. And part of that is through us, part of that is through our connections. And then the final piece is the students. If they're driven and they're hungry to do this, we're going to give them every opportunity to succeed. It's up to them to take advantage of it.
Which I think is incredibly encouraging, very exciting. As a student, obviously, I've had goosebumps this entire conversation because it's been just such a fun experience for me to go through this course and learn everything that I have. Now, as a instructor and as someone who is obviously ushering in what will be a new era of sportscasters, what in your mind has sportscasting or the world of sports media been missing that you believe that this program is going to help bridge the gap or prepare people for?
I think the word you just used is a good one, prepared. So one of the most important aspects of the job is to be well prepared and ready. If you have a big interview, to have done your research and to be ready to ask the right questions. If you're going to anchor a show, to have every aspect of every story that you're covering, to know the inside details. And what we're doing is preparing our students to be ready for when they get on the battlefield, that is broadcasting, because it is a very difficult business to crack into. And once you're in it, it's high pressure, it's deadlines, it's all that every day. There's a lot on your plate. So students that have gone through our program will already have felt like they were in that environment through the way that we have everything set up. They will face deadlines. I mean, in my class, it's deadline. You have to meet your deadlines. If you don't, you're going to fall behind. And they're going to have all the reps on camera. And let's say they want to be a producer, they'll have all the reps behind the scenes as well. If they want to shoot video, they'll have great command of a camera. So they'll be well prepared and well versed, not only in terms of what they need to do to actually do the job, but also some of the behind the scenes stuff as well that you don't know that's going on in terms of what it takes to succeed and how to troubleshoot once you're in the business.
Yeah, I can't agree more. There's been so many opportunities, not just in this field, but just job opportunities where they expect you to kind of know what's going on without knowing what's going on. They want you to be prepared to take on whatever it is that they throw at you. And in the world of media, I don't think that there's anything really harder than that. I mean, of course, there's a few jobs, like servicemen and women and police force firefighters. But, I mean, for a media job or an industry like this is probably one of the hardest ones because you do have to be well-versed. You do have to be well-prepared. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to be all of the above. And as Joe Stacy would say, proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. The 6 Ps of Joe Stacy right there. So stuff to live by. But
Good advice.
I do hope that if Dan hits you up and needs any clips or anything from students that you, at least recommend me in some way, shape, or form. Dan, hero of mine, and I hope I've been doing well in your class. Looking forward to our live session this week, and then, of course, the upcoming assignments. But, Rishi, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show and to talk more about the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting with you.
Thank you, Richard, and Dan will be seeing your work very soon. We've already been hearing from him that he wants to see more of your stuff and everybody else's. So
no pressure.
He will be giving you feedback. What feedback he gives you, I can't tell you, but my feedback has been pretty good so far for you because you're off to a great start. So keep working hard and keep going after what you love. That's what makes this such a great job. Is it's something that I've loved for my whole time. I've been fortunate that every job I've had as a professional has been something that I've loved, and that's, I think, what the goal should be for everyone who goes into whatever profession is their choice. So I hope this takes you to great things. You're off to a great start, and you have a great show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. He is Rishi Barren, my instructor for broadcast writing, and you can catch him at Full Sail and, of course, doing some sportscasting himself. Rishi, thank you again so much. You have a great night.
Anytime, Richard. Thanks.
All right. Once again, big thank you to my instructor, Rishi Barren, for joining us on the podcast today. And I'm not joking when I said I wasn't sure if it was something that was like frowned upon, because I know that there's been instances where teachers, instructors can't endorse, certain things that their like students are doing, or I mean, I've been nominated for awards, and I have also not been able to be nominated for awards because of conflict of interest, or because I already had, I worry about, well, can I win this because I have sponsors or have had sponsors? There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't realize until you're there experiencing it. So I'm just very grateful that this is part of kind of their hands-on and encouragement and what they want this program to be about. So when I said, hey, would you want to be a guest on the show? He's like, absolutely. Because I sent him a bunch of links to video content and, the podcast stuff that I've done on camera, behind the microphone. And, his feedback has been great. He's been one of my favorite instructors and teachers throughout all this. But it's been such an amazing program. So huge shout out, Full Sail and DP and the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. I love how he decides to finish up that segment being like, yeah, Dan's going to see your stuff here pretty soon. Oh, great. No pressure at all. So I've been doing my best to knock it out of the park with this program and with this class, because the fact that DP is going to see the stuff, man, that makes me incredible. And we're going to get feedback from him. I'm going to try not to cry in a corner if that's the case. But I mean, worst thing would be if he rips me apart for something that I didn't even realize I was or wasn't doing. Oh God, that would be terrible. But I trust Rishi. I think Rishi has been completely 110% honest with me. And I make a point, because I'm in Washington, my school is in Orlando, Florida. You can't get much further away from each other than that, except for maybe living in Alaska or Hawaii, but I don't. So continental U.S., I'm there. So I make a point that because we don't get the opportunity to go into class first day of the course or first day of the class and basically do little, meet and greet, get to know you kind of thing like they do the first day of any other class, I will call them the first week and I will have a conversation with them, get to know them a little bit, see, kind of get a feel for them, because it's 4 weeks. And in standard school, in most cases, 4 weeks is when you're just getting to know your teacher and their tendencies. And in this one, you're pretty much done. And you've completed all the assignments, and wow. So it's been a learning curve, to say the very least. I do miss in-classroom stuff. I really do. I miss that in-classroom interaction. But you work with what you got. I'll take what I can get, because I believe in this program. I believe in my ability, my talent, my skill. So this is what that's all about. No more excuses after this. No more. It's either, put up or shut up time. Well, we had a great little Wednesday episode here. Great collection of things that we discussed this week. Headlines, of course, always a fun segment of the show. Covered a lot. And then this week, games to watch. Obviously, I'll be tuned into Monday Night Football. 49ers hosting the Giants. Will Mullins Mania continue to run wild, brother, all the way through Levi Stadium again and get their third win of the season? I would certainly like to see that. Sunday night is Cowboys-Eagles for yet another Cowboys primetime game. I'm so sick of it. But I did make a rather funny tweet and post on Facebook. I said, watching Jerry Jones' reaction to his team getting beat on national television in primetime is seriously one of my favorite pastimes. It is. And it's because that man, I'm so over the obsession with the Cowboys. I'm just over it. Why do they get so much spotlight when, one, they're not good, and two, their owner's an asshole? Sorry, didn't mean to go that far, but it's the truth. The Rams-Seahawks game is going to be very interesting. Seahawks need this win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Mathematically, even the 49ers are still in the divisional race. They have not been mathematically eliminated yet. And the Rams, with one more win, will guarantee a winning season. 49ers, one more loss would guarantee that they would finish at the very least 500, or at the very best 500. I know that either of these teams could tie, but it's the NFL, and I don't believe in ties, so I just completely disregard them entirely. But no team has guaranteed a winning season just yet. So will we get one in Week 10? We are over the hump. We are in the home stretch. Things are starting to clear up, and teams should be, if they haven't already, fighting for their lives. So let's take a quick rundown of this week's NFL matchups. And so we've got to start off Week 10, Thursday night, Panthers-Steelers. Panthers 6-2 on the road against the 5-2-1 Steelers. Steelers would love to win this one. Panthers would love to win this one as well. Panthers especially because they're playing keep up with the Saints, who only have one loss. A third loss doesn't do much to the Panthers because they would need the Saints to lose in order for them to have any chance at the division. So right now I'm looking at the Panthers at a wild card spot at best, but the Steelers very much in control of their own destiny at 5-2-1 in the AFC North. Lions-Bears, divisional matchup. Lions 3-5, Bears 5-3, and the Bears are just as hot and cold as the Lions are. So this really could go either way. I think the Bears need this win more than the Lions do because the Packers, they're not ever going to really be out of it until they're mathematically out of it. And that's probably going to take till the last week of the season. But the Vikings are the thorn in the Bears' side right now as far as the NFC North goes. Saints, Bengals 5-3, Saints 7-1. Bengals need the win more, but I think that the Saints are going to continue their dominance. The Saints are 4-0 on the road this season, the first time since 2009, which I believe was the year that they probably won the Super Bowl. I'll have to double check that, but I feel like that's important to point out there. Falcons and Browns. Falcons 4-4. They need all the help they can get. The Browns could very well beat them, but the Falcons played hell of a game against the Washington Redskins in Washington on the road. If they can make it 5-4, they have a chance. But when you're in the same division as Carolina and New Orleans, you need too much help from other teams, and you don't control your own destiny. So they could be looking at being a wild card team as well. 2 from the South wouldn't be too bad because I don't really see where another wild card team is going to emerge from except for the NFC North. It's not going to be the East, and it's not going to be the West, at least in my opinion, but we will see about that. Jaguars and the Colts, South rivalry for the AFC, 3-5 and 3-5. Andrew Luck is 6-2 versus the Jaguars in his career. I think that the Colts, both of these teams need a win, but the Colts could probably do more with it if they got it. I just don't believe in the Jaguars. I really don't. They're not the Jaguars of last season by a long shot. And so for them to think that winning this game and maybe winning the division is going to suddenly change things for them come postseason, I don't see it. I don't believe it. So I'm going to go, I think the Colts will take that one. The Cardinals and the Chiefs. Cardinals 2-6 on the road against the hot Chiefs at 8-1. Chiefs, they don't need the win, but they're definitely going to take it, I believe. Bills and Jets, 2-7, 3-6. Darnold not playing. We get McCown. I still think the Jets are going to get this one. This is another divisional game. Jets need too much to go right for them in basically the rest of the league in order for them to have any playoff hopes left. But there is always a chance. We'll see. I think Jets are going to get that one. Redskins and the Buccaneers. Redskins fell to 5-3 in a very winnable NFC East. I think they'll get back on the right track. They will win on the road in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers, who really are the furthest from any hope of getting a wild card and nonetheless the division title in the NFC South. So Redskins, they need it more. Do they want it more? Will they get it? I think they will. Patriots and Titans. This one's a very, very good one. Titans 4-4 and could be one of the teams to potentially win the AFC South against the Patriots, who are more than likely going to win the NFC East. Patriots, they can take a loss, but they don't want one. I mean, who really wants one? But you know what I mean. The Patriots, they're going to take every win that they can. But it would be nice for the Titans to pull off the upset here. Tom Brady and the Patriots offense versus a stout Titans defense. Chargers, Raiders. The Chargers are the team that's in the same position as the Carolina Panthers when it comes to the AFC side of things. They're playing catch up with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think they're one of the only true wild card teams out there other than the Dolphins. But they're going to have a chance to prove that going up against the Raiders in Oakland for the last time. Chargers 6-2 start is their best since 2006. That's really saying something. So I think the Chargers are going to get another win and help keep pace with Mahomes and the Chiefs. Dolphins, Packers. This is probably going to be one of the best games of the week. Dolphins are 5-4, very much still alive in the race for the AFC East, but man, do they need a lot of help everywhere else. And the Packers, they're reeling, and they don't like that feeling. So Aaron Rodgers has won 11 straight at home. This is in Lambeau, and I think the Packers are probably going to take it because they need it more than the Dolphins. Because, like I said, there's not really any other true wild card potential teams in the AFC other than the Chargers. So I think the Dolphins are going to be just fine right now. Do you want to be just fine? Like, do you want that team that just gets it because nobody else wanted it? No, but, I mean, that's the Dolphins, right? So Packers get that. Seahawks 4-4, Rams 8-1. Rams back at home after their first loss of the year. And Wilson is 6-7 in his career versus the Rams. Most losses versus any opponent for Russell Wilson. That's probably going to be the best game of the entire week. Cowboys, Eagles. Cowboys 3-5. Eagles 4-4. Like I said, NFC East very winnable. I hope to God it's not an 8-8 team that wins this. So that's why I'm pulling for the Redskins. Giants 1-7. They're out. 49ers, they're out, even though nobody's really mathematically eliminated just yet. But we're getting there. Week 10 is usually that week that we start to see them drop off and be eliminated. Teams on a bye. Ravens 4-5. Like I said, there's not really another true wild card team out there. I thought maybe the Ravens could be it. Maybe the Bengals can be, but the Bengals always bungle right when they need to bangle the most, if that's even a thing. Vikings are off 5-3-1, so clearly the Bears getting no help because they can't lose, but they also can't win. Their next game, though, is at Chicago, so that will probably be a huge game. It has been flexed into the primetime spot. Texans are off. They are 6-3. They are the most likely to win the AFC South, but depending on what Andrew Luck and the Colts can get done against the Jaguars, that could be something. And then maybe if the Titans can upset the Patriots. So that's a division to keep a close eye on because it's still anybody's game, even though there's only one team with a winning record. Broncos 3-6. They're off. Their next game is at L.A. Texans' next game is at Washington. That'll be an interesting one. And the Ravens' next game is at Cincinnati. So either the Ravens are going to play spoiler for the Bengals, or maybe something happens this week and they can claim that wild card spot, maybe even the division. There's a lot of football left to play, but there's not enough football left to play for some teams. And so that is your Week 10 matchups. We're over the hump, and we are done. I want to thank you again to Rishi Barren for being my guest. We talked a lot about the DP school. We went through headlines, the Saints getting Des Bryant, Eagles getting Darren Sproles back, and Bruce Irvin getting with Atlanta, his hometown of Atlanta. Darnold is out. McCullen's mania continues to run wild. Will it run wild Monday night against the New York Giants? Tune in to Monday Night Football to find out, and that's going to do it for us here on the Fan Show. So remember, give us a like, a follow, and whatever else on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, and subscribe if you can't listen live. Tonight's will not be live, so I suggest you subscribe. iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and we broadcast to you live from the Fan Cave studio right here on Spreaker.com. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners! And remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks!
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's spot? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.